what's up? I'm Seven Dunbar, and this is Yes, Quit Your Day Job, real talk for music industry creatives. On this show, we dive deep with artists, producers, and behind-the-scenes forces who figured out how to make a living doing what they love without selling their soul or losing their mind. Whether you're already in the game or still plotting your exit from the 9 to 5, you'll get practical advice, hard-earned insights, and a reminder that you're not crazy for chasing this. Today's guest is Thomas Crawford, a longtime friend, fellow musician, and someone who's been through every phase of the creative grind, from the DIY trenches to national tours. In this episode, we're talking about what it really means to have a vision for your art and how knowing your why can be the difference between burnout and longevity. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Yes, Quit Your Day Job. I'm Seven Dunbar, and today I'm talking with someone who's been on stage with me, backstage with me, behind the scenes on more projects than I can count. We're diving into the weird balancing act between corporate structure and creative chaos, and how he went from working at Amazon and Tinder to fronting a band, launching his own music management company, and even more. So let's get into it. So let's start where all this started. Do you remember your first band, or what pulled you into music in the first place?
Well, what pulled me into music, oddly enough, I've been in music pretty much my whole life. I started out playing viola when I was in elementary school, and I got into high school and started like learning to play the bass guitar. Loved grunge at the time, listened to a shit ton of Nirvana and Alice in Chains. And my very first band ever, I was 17, and it was a Christian punk band called Chapter 9. Horrible band. But it definitely got me used to starting to understand what being an actual musician was about, and having to work with 3 to 4 to 5 other people on things. And yeah, that's kind of where it all started way back then, in high school. Um, yeah, and just kept going from there. Like after I graduated, and I had kids at a very young age, so I was splitting my time with trying to do bands and music, and also just trying to make money to sustain my family. So I was in a few bands in the Cincinnati area.
Okay.
I was in a was in a band called Cable Up. Then it changed to 12 Ounce Profit. It left them, uh, and then started learning to play guitar. Was in a band called Crowning Apathy. Actually, the very first band I ever played guitar in was called Catfish Death Syndrome. So horrible. Um, yeah, it literally like never played out. We just like, just learned songs in the basement, and I realized that it was not going to be a long-standing band. Joined a band called Fluoride, spelled Flooreyed. That was kind of a nickname that they come up with because they would get so drunk that they would be laying on the floor and their eyes would be on the floor, so they'd be fluoride. Yeah.
So not the stuff in the water.
No, not the stuff in the water. And then got poached by a band called Crowning Apathy. Played with them for about a year or so. Was in another band in Psycho Set. That was the last band I was in Cincinnati, playing guitar. It was kind of like just your standard groove metal type of thing, just like somewhere between a mixture of hardcore and just in your face metal, but not metalcore, not like weird breakdowns and dissonant chords all the time and shit like that. And then I moved out of Cincinnati and started a band called Aries Burning in Ashland, Kentucky. Did that band for about a year, and then I just decided like things were just getting way too chaotic and wanted to make sure that I was again sustaining my family and whatnot. So I just took a break from music and really focused on my career. which, as you stated, was at Amazon. I started as a CSA taking phone calls at Huntington, West Virginia, and I just kept growing within the company. And ultimately got to a point where I needed to leave Huntington and go to the headquarters in Seattle.
Oh, okay. That's a
Um,
big change.
and oh yeah, huge change, definitely huge difference where like my job was 10 miles away and it would take me 15 minutes to get there. And then going to Seattle where my job was 25 miles away and would take me an hour to get there. Um, and by shortly after I moved to Seattle, all of my children they uh, they grew up and left the nest, and I started getting back into music again. And I started a solo project um, called Seraphim. It ended up like at the time, like I did not see myself as a frontman, not as a singer, so I just wrote instrumental, heavy industrial music and was performing shows with like all my backing tracks that I created and just me playing guitar. Um,
Nice.
and then I met my I had an Uber driver that his name was Richard, and he and I started just talking about music, and it was totally like a Step Brothers moment where it was like, "Hey, I've got my own solo industrial metal project." Really, I've got my own solo industrial metal project. Did we just become best friends? Um, type of thing. And he came and saw one of my shows, and we started working together on a lot of music that he had written under the name Fleischkrieg. And right as that was starting, I got poached by Tender. Um, and left my job at Amazon and moved down to Los Angeles. And no sooner, like literally right as I was driving down from Seattle, got a call from my new boss going, "Hey, they're shutting everything down." So
Wow.
that's when COVID started. So I had a lot of time just is sitting in my house, not able to go anywhere, not do anything. And Richard relocated as well. He moved down to Los Angeles and was like staying in a little studio ADU on the property, and he and I wrote what ended up being our first album
Wow.
with Fleisch Creek. And then I started like while I was doing like I was still working, but doing the Fleisch Creek thing, I was basically taking a lot of the skills that I had learned in the corporate environment and applying it to building strategies and executing on tasks and project plans and things like that. Um, and was doing that with Fleischkrieg. And uh, as things started to open, we were playing regional shows. And, we actually, even though we were located in Los Angeles, we didn't play our first LA show for a year after we actually were out playing live. And uh, got a manager, got, all sorts of representation. And we ended up on the road with Mushroomhead, which was amazing. But or you look like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I actually wanted to touch on the mushroom head thing. So y- you cut your teeth in Ohio and did the kind of local band. I think a lot of us started there,
Hmm.
moved to the West Coast, a lot of life changes, and you're going from essentially van tours to open, now you're on a major national tour with Mushroomhead. Um,
Hmm.
like what hit you the hardest the first time you were really like out on the road like that? The difference between those local shows to now being on a tour with a national band.
Well, I think there was a few things. One, definitely the financial side of it. So going on tour is very expensive. Um, I without any empirical data, just off of my own observations, I want to say that Fleischkrieg was the highest grossing support act for that tour. We were averaging about 500 a night in merch sales. On some of these tours, like we were one of those acts, we were a buy-on act, so we weren't getting paid by venues and guarantees. all of our money came straight from merch.
When
Um,
when you say buy on, like for people that might not know what that
Mhm.
means, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so buy on means you give money to a larger act to be able to be on tour with them and be one of their opening bands. So generally, at least from what I've observed and experienced, is these larger acts, they have they're signed with booking agencies, and they will put together, like, they want to do a tour. Sometimes they'll do a tour package where it's like them and one other band, so like you'll see a lot of these like co-headlining tours, or you know um where there'll be like a package of this is who it is. They'll put it to their tour manager, and tour manager then goes and starts, working to book those shows, while also looking for people who might be interested in being the support acts that open for them going on that tour. So we were one of two buy on support acts. We were the ones playing the very first, like we were the first band that went on every night. Um, so that's what it means for a buy on. But in those instances, there's no compensation coming from venues and book talent buyers and things like that. There's no revenue coming to us from that. Um, all of our revenue comes strictly from merch.
So
And
I think we're seeing this a lot more now, where it
Mhm.
used to be back in the day, especially with like, not huge like arena bands, but bands that are doing like, like House of Blues kind of size venues. They used
Mhm.
to get tour support from the labels, used to have a budget for that.
Yep.
You sign with a label, put out a new record, and then let's get out on tour. And there would be a budget for that, for the bands to be able to do that. And I think now we're not really seeing a lot of tour support from labels. A lot of bands, even bigger bands, aren't using labels anymore.
Yep.
And I think they're trying to navigate and figure out, okay, how do we do this? And I
Mhm.
think the buy on kind of came out of that, where they go, what if we took up and coming regional bands, had them pay us to come on tour with us and have essentially access to our fan base,
Right.
and that greases the wheels for the initial cost, right? Because right out of the
Yep.
gate, you're paying for the bus driver, you're paying for the bus, you're paying for food. There's a lot of, even for the headliner, there's a lot of external expenses that day one you're in the red a lot, and so the buy
Yep.
on bands kind of grease the wheels a little bit for that and make it where it, you know it takes a little bit of that burden away until they're able to get out on tour, because that's how the national, the headliners are making their money off merch sales
Yep.
and from doing those shows as well.
Yeah, well, I think the buy-on stuff has been around for a while, though. Particularly, like, I know, like, I can't say for certain with the bigger ones, like the labels, like they may do, like you say, like a label supported tour. Then it's like it's all the same money, like it doesn't matter. But I think when there was still cross label, like if one, a newer band on a newer label, they have funding that they would then go and buy on to something with a package that was going elsewhere. I know for a fact that, like, the Ozfest
I was gonna
tours.
say, I feel like that started with Sharon, and that was an Ozfest model. I think that's where the buy on concept really kind of came
Yeah,
around.
like, yeah, definitely, like, basically all of your second stage Ozfest, was those were all buy on bands.
Sure.
Like, and it was, or at least everybody that was, um with the exception of like maybe the last two or three acts that was playing. So like the one Ozfest I went to, it was Down was the headliner for the second stage, followed prior to that was Hatebreed. I'm pretty certain those bands didn't buy on, but like I've heard stories of, like, God forbid, and Lacuna Coil, when they were on Ozfest, they had to spend like 90 grand to buy on for it.
See,
And,
but I feel like that could be a good investment, because I know with my band, with Human Factors Lab and Seven Factor, when we first kind of broke out of being a regional, we were in the Florida and Georgia and Carolinas, and we broke out from there to doing like our first national tour was also with Mushroomhead, which is just a weird coincidence. And we paid a X number of dollars to get on that, but we gained that back. Like we made our money back in the first week as far as merch sales. We were getting paid from the venue on that tour. And then the exposure we got from that, because you got to think of it when you're buying on, but now you're included. All the booking is taken care of from you. You're put on the bill. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. You don't have to worry about either DIY bands that are doing it themselves or getting a booking agent to do it. We were in all the ad mat. We were in like, there's some cities we went to where the promoters had taken out like magazine ads and we would, see those and we're included in all that. And there was a couple radio spots. I think there may have even been like an MTV kind of spot back then. This is like, it's like 2008, 2009 we were doing this, but it was the kind of thing where there was always almost this stigma of like, oh, you didn't earn that spot to be on that tour. You paid for it. You bought on, And the thing is like, it's not about having the money. It's if you haven't achieved a certain level of success, you're not even going to be able to buy on, you're not going to be able to talk to the people to pay to get on. It's you work to get to that part. You build up your fan base. At the time, it was a lot through regional shows, and now there's obviously been a shift to more online, more streaming numbers and things. But to just because you bought on, it was still a very good career move for us, and I'm sure it was for you too. It gave us it exposed us to their fan base that would not have heard of us otherwise.
Right. Yeah, and it's also like not even just that. Like it's not hey, like when you spend that money, you're investing in, hey, you're getting in front of those people, but it's also what are you doing after that? It's not just all right, I'm going to buy on and we're going to go on this amazing tour. It's like, no, why are we going on this amazing tour? How are we going to capitalize on that and continue, moving forward? And I'm sure I ended up parting ways with Fleischkrieg at the end of the tour. It just the usual creative differences, blah blah blah. But like if it was done correctly, there would have been it would have been like this list of things that we were planning to do 6 months after the tour and how we were going to capitalize on that and how we would basically keep funneling that momentum.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it when it comes to situations like this, kind of speaking to what you're talking about, you get that first tour, even if it's a buy on, you're opening up for a much larger band. You're playing larger venues than you normally would. You're getting new crowds and new fan bases.
Yep.
The key thing to do there is you look at your numbers and you look at those cities, and 3 to 6 months later, be back in that city, right? Yep. You're going to be at a smaller venue. Maybe you're at a 300 or 400 venue. You come back, you're playing the local dive bar that's 50 to 100 capacity, but some of those fans, what?
But you're also getting paid directly.
Yeah. So that's where you come back and you approach other venues or that venue in the market and go, hey, we were just through there 3 months ago. We would love to come to your venue. Some of those fans from the show you did with the headliner are going to come see you. And then you also, you do your online advertising. You target those regions. You target those fans. And you target you basically through your advertising, you target that, and you look at your streaming numbers. You look at Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon. Are there any other, within the tour routing, it's like, hey, we played Cleveland, we played Columbus, but it looks like we're getting really good numbers over in Pittsburgh. Instead of going down to DC, we should probably kick over on our own tour and hit those fans as well. Cause obviously our numbers are showing that we have fans there,
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And also using PR. So PR done correctly, a lot of people when they do, at least in my experiences, um, they'll usually do them for one-off things of like, hey, we're dropping a single or we just dropped a new video or whatever.
Sure.
But if you actually have like a year's worth of plans of releases, tours, shows, and things like that, and you work in good with a good PR company, like they're working for you 24/7 to help you continue that momentum, exactly what you're talking about, where you capitalize on, hey, we are going on this tour, we're doing these things, but PR can work to get press. Like they'll drive ads for local radio stations, they'll get more like interviews and stuff while you're there that really push it and keep and have things scheduled for you as you're going along with it. And to where the more that they see that publications, if they keep seeing your name pop up in these things for these um, various actions that are taking place, um, then they're going to be looking at your name a lot more, and then you're going to be showing up in more magazines and more online publications and things like that. That's going to even continue to drive that.
I feel like the singer for Disturbed and Slipknot. I feel like their PR teams. I swear every week I see something in Blabbermouth or something else of like, oh, this is Corey Taylor has really controversial opinions on flavors of ice cream or some random thing where you're like, why is anybody even asking him that? Why do we? Why are we? Why? Right?
Some of it, yeah, some of it is they've got PR people that are sending those drops and sending those emails, and some of it is just they have to be going around and they
Slow news
see.
day.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say a slow news day. Like, some of it is just like, hey, we got to pay attention to this. So when things happen, and hey, I've got some filler, I can go and put something in there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, a combination of all those things, but it definitely is driven by like, I've spoke with a couple of PR companies, and they all tell me the same thing. Yeah, can I do a single release for you? A single press release, a single ad? Absolutely. However, if you really want the biggest bang for your buck, give me your year plan. Tell me
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing. What is your schedule for this, and this? And you pay them an amount each month, and they're really up to their eyeballs in making sure people know who the hell you are and what you're doing.
Love that.
Sometimes it may entail what type of ice cream you're eating.
Yeah. So uh, was there a moment where it all kind of clicked when it comes to the music where you're just like, yeah, I'm built for this? Because you'd mentioned you started off in the local scene, you have a family,
Mhm.
you're getting into the corporate world and moving to different coasts, but you still came back to music if you ever really left even to begin with. Is it what was that moment where you're like, yeah, this is it. I'm built for doing this.
I think, I mean, I've always had that in me. Like since the very first time I ever played a show, I've always had like I've said it for decades. Getting on stage is like a drug for me. That is my high. Getting up on stage and interacting with fans who love what you're doing, sometimes even interacting with people that don't love what you're doing. But that's a whole other thing for performance. I could talk an hour on that. Um, but I think where things really kind of clicked with me and like, hey, there is a way for me to really focus on this side of it, was probably toward the end of um, my run with Fleischkrieg. Like I said, we did get a manager. Uh, so I got into a point, well, when I was still well within Fleischkrieg, where the corporate life, like I was struggling to get out of bed. Like it just, I wasn't getting the same joy out of it.
Yeah.
Even though I could do the job really well, I wasn't necessarily happy with it. But I really loved my skill sets and what I could apply. So I wanted to get into the music industry and apply my skills to the music industry. Well, shortly after that, we got a manager, and I kind of shared these aspirations that I wanted with my manager. And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'll totally show you the ropes, blah, blah, blah. We'll get into it." Um, Sadly though, he didn't, not in a direct way. I and instead I learned a lot about the music industry in that no one knows what the hell they're doing. Like they're all trying to get their buck the best way that they can. Um, and sadly, I also notice there's a lot of predators out there, like toward my end of my run with Fleisch Creek, going on tour with Mushroom Head, working with producers and PR companies and all of this thing. Um, I will say, like, it was very eye-opening the amount of predators that there are, like when I noticed we were on tour. So like I said, we were, in my opinion, the highest grossing support act for that tour. But when it was all said and done, we were in the red. Like, I was borrowing money to get back home.
Wow.
And yeah, and I still owed, like, our tour manager, I still owed him like a good third of his salary, and was borrowing and trading things to pay those things off. And honestly, I think that's another reason why I left Fleischkrieg, was I was just burnt out from the financial side of it.
Sure.
Um, but like a predatory practice that I absolutely cannot stand is merch cuts at venues.
Yeah. There's a
Like
lot of controversy about that.
absolutely. And I will say we were fortunate that not many venues did that to us. Of the 19 shows that we played, there was 3 venues that had their hand out for their percentage. But 15% of the money that you worked your ass off for, and you're trying to get into your gas tank, it definitely hurt.
Yeah,
And when I
because
got
your margins on shirts as it is, you're paying $5 to $8 a shirt. You want to treat your fans right, so you don't want to sell shirts for $50, right?
right,
So you find what's a good place there, and you're making just enough to get to the next venue.
yep,
And then the merch cuts with the certain promoters and venues, they got their hand out
yep,
wanting their piece of it.
yeah, exactly. And when I got back home, like, the whole financial things definitely, like, it hit hard. But um I realize what I come to realize about the music industry is, one, everyone is out to try to make money however they can, the easiest way that they can. And sometimes their methods of doing that is being predatory against creatives who aren't necessarily as good with money, or they get suckered into, like, they know how to focus and groom you based off of your hopes and dreams, and they know and yeah, hey, I can really, your stuff is so amazing, I can take you really, really far. It's
They
just going
use
to cost 5 figures to make it happen.
they use that your passion against you,
Yes.
because I mean, a lot of us are so passionate where we don't have the money, but we will come up with the money, right? All the band members will chip in. You'll get another job. You'll take out a loan.
we've
Like,
we've all watched the Leah Remini things about Scientology and how those people were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on things. So
yeah, it's a similar vibe.
yeah.
So is this what inspired you to start your own management company again? Like
it,
tell
it
us a little bit
absolutely
about
was.
Darkstream and stuff.
So a little bit, it was a little bit of that, as well as, so you kind of ask, like, what was it like going from that local band to you're doing bigger shows and stuff like that. And a lot of people, like, they always refer to it as local band versus national act and things like that. And when I realized it's not that, it's
Yeah,
about professional versus amateur.
100%.
What it was I learned how to be a professional. And I would go and I would see all these things that, we Fleischkrieg, our very first tour ever was our own headlining tour that we did all our booking for and all of that. Again, we lost a crap ton of money, but we were the headliner and we had a lot of local support, and we kept noticing certain behaviors of the local bands that were supporting us.
Yeah.
And and again, like at the end of the Mushroom Head tour, is when I come to the realization. The other part is that there is no science to the music industry, and no one knows what the hell they're doing. They just know their particular niche, figure out a way to make money from it, and go out from there. Um, and I basically was like, you know what? I'm going to start my own. And another reason that I decided to start my own was so when I went on that tour, we got to play Cincinnati, my hometown, and the dream venue I always wanted to be with, let alone opening for one of my most influential bands to my music. Like I was a huge Mushroomhead fan for 20 years. So that was a dream come true, and I got to see some old friends from the old Cincy metal scene. Um, and one of my friends from back then, he reached out on Facebook and he was asking for feedback on a song, and I was talking to him. I was like, "Hey, man, like, tell me like the vision that you have for like, tell me that like you want feedback on this song, but I want to know the vision for your band." And
Yeah.
he's like, "Well, you think, well, eventually, like, we'll play some shows." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Like, not next steps. What is your ultimate vision for this band?" And he's like, "Well, I really don't know." And I'm like, that's when it clicked with me. Hey, a lot of it is people are missing long-term vision. They're
Sure.
missing a mission statement or a brand North Star for their artists, and they're missing how to appropriately work backwards from that to understand where they are and to create milestones and goals and really focus on those things. And I was like, so honestly, between a combination of that and my observations, this is when I decided I'm going to go and do this. And I call it Darkstream Music Management. And even then, like as I started that, I started coming to the realization that what I'm doing isn't as much management as it is development. And I kind of learned that there's a threshold. Like a manager is there when you already have something, you're already well established, and they just need someone to help with the heavy lifting or organizing all the chaos that they've got going on, but they're already well established.
Yeah.
Um,
You get your music and everything to a point where when you can't handle it your own, that's when
yep,
you bring in a manager.
right.
I have people hit me up all the time and say, "Oh, can you get me a manager? Can you get me a manager?" And my first question is always, "Why do you want a manager? Like what?"
Yep,
And there's a lot of misconceptions, and I hear a lot. Oh, well, if I get a manager, then I'll make it. I'll get, I want to be famous and I want to be rich. So get me a manager, because they equate getting a
hmm,
manager or getting signed to a label as winning the lottery. And you
yep,
really need to have an understanding of not just what a manager does, but when are you ready for that step?
yep. Yeah, and so what I came to in my own observations, and I've kind of set a threshold on, all right, once a band has hit this point, they probably need a manager. If they've not hit this point, they need development. And I would say actually 100% of my work right now with Darkstream is development. But for me, that threshold is this artist making at least 5 grand a month from solely their art, their music, whatever, be it from merch sales, be it from streaming, be it from playing shows, whatever the case may be. If they are making at least 5 grand a month on their own from this, then they need a manager. If they aren't, they need development in figuring out how they are organized in a way that they're making money and they're able to sustain a living in music.
Sure.
Um, and so the majority of the people, if not all of them, they're in development. And again, the way that I start is, what is your vision? Where do you want to be? Like, as it relates to this project, your art, your music, where do you see yourself in 20 years? Where do you want to see yourself in 20 years? And then when we establish that vision, then we work backwards from that and go, okay, well, in order to get that, you have to be here first. In order to be here, you have to be here first, and just work backwards until where they are today. And then establish a set of goals for a year. Say, all right, 1 year from now, we're gonna do these things. We're gonna get, we're gonna release this many songs. We're gonna have this many streams, this many subscribers, followers, whatever. We're making this amount of money, setting those goals. And then after that one, or once I've established a year, then I break it down into, okay, what are we going to do for the next 3 months, and
Sure.
really focus on just 3 months. Because what a lot of people will find is they can do a lot in 3 months that they never thought possible to be done in a year.
If you have the organization, which I, having worked with you on numerous projects, is something that you excel at for sure. No pun intended. Um, but yeah, there's a lot to be said, especially if you're working with somebody who has the same vision as you do, and you take action, but you do everything you do is with intent towards that common goal.
Yep.
You can get a lot more done than if you're just like, oh man, it's 2 a.m. Maybe I should post a picture of my dinner onto our band page so that we have some engagement. Yeah, to your point, if you do things really with intent, you can get a lot done in a short amount of time.
Yeah, well, that, and also that vision becomes your North Star for everything that you do.
Yeah.
So whenever you come up, because what often happens is they'll be given opportunities. They'll like, hey, do you want to open up for this band next month? Or do you want to go and do this TV show or whatever? And it sounds awesome and amazing, and it sounds like it's like the next level, or you're getting somewhere. But before you say yes, you go, how does this fit the long-term vision? Is this in line with what we're wanting to do?
Yeah.
Is this in line with our brand? If the answer is no, then you politely decline, because all you're doing is you're taking energy away from that ultimate vision. And
Right.
if you find yourself going, no, I really want to do this, then you got to ask yourself why. Like, why do you want to do this? And are you still in line with that vision? And not to say the vision can't change, but it should be an act of Congress to make that vision change if you really feel comfortable and set with what you're trying to do.
Yeah. For some reason, that reminded me. I saw this interview with a friend of mine who's a comedian, Eric Andre, and he was talking about, I can't remember the exact name of what show it was or movie, but there was a role that he had turned down, and the actor that took that went on to win an Oscar. And they were asking him in this interview, like, do you regret turning that down? And he was like, or like, why did you turn that down was the question. And he said, I looked at it, and at the end of the day, it didn't just feel like it fit my brand. And I turned it down based off of that. And he's like, yeah, and you know what? This other actor went and absolutely killed it and got an Oscar. And maybe Eric would or would not have gotten an Oscar, right?
But
But
probably not, because
yeah,
because in the end, like, if he felt it wasn't fitting his brand, then that means his amount of attention and effort toward that would not have been 100% versus
totally
just
agree.
was. So, like,
Yeah.
just because somebody won an Oscar on a role that he turned down, I would I would bet $1 million that he would not have won an Oscar
Yeah.
if he had done it. So, I
So
mean, nothing against, I mean, dudes, but he would not have put forth the same effort, the same energy, because it wasn't in line. It's just like someone would go to me like, why would you quit an amazing job, making seriously amazing money? Well, because my energy wasn't there for it anymore.
yeah.
It wasn't bringing me the same joy, and I was doing a disservice to the company and to my team by continuing to trudge along with it. So
Quick break. If you're digging this conversation, do me a favor and follow the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's free. It helps more people find us, and it lets us keep bringing you real stories from inside the industry. All right, back to it. Yeah. So my next question, you're now fronting, you have your own band, Icebus, right?
yes,
Um,
Icebus.
you were always the guy off to the side playing guitar, and now you're the front man. You're the guy with the mic. You're front and center.
Yeah.
What made you make that transition? It's not just a different instrument. That's a pretty, significant transition into a completely different role.
Oh yeah, very different. I can attest, it's very different. Um, it was it's kind of weird how it did. And the more I reflect on it, but I've never been like when I was a kid in elementary school, I was in choir and I could sing and I could do it, but I've found more joy in playing an instrument. And then I moved to a rural area that that they were limited in some of and something happened in my scheduling from going to elementary school to junior high and middle school and whatnot that they didn't put me in choir. So like I stopped doing the choir thing, but really stuck with the instrument. Um, and then kind of my vocal skills, like I always like had a like even the first time I got up on stage, and I will say for years going up on stage, there was a level of nervousness and anxiety going up there, but I loved it. Um, but again, not all the attention was on me. I made the attention go to me. Like the amount of attention I got, I asked for. But not all the attention was on me. And as I progressed as a performer, I kept like seeing myself like almost in a competition with my singers going, no, I'm going to make sure people know who I am and I'm going to
Yeah.
fight the performance side of it. Um, but I never felt comfortable singing. Like it was just weird. And I hadn't done it for years. Strange thing happened. I got asked to judge a karaoke competition, and I found myself watching all of these karaoke professionals who could sing amazing, but their performance was woefully inadequate. And eh, eh, I asked the director, I was like, "Hey, can I go and do a song?" He's like, "Sure, absolutely." Um, and I did it as a learning thing, like, "Hey, when I say performance, when I say stage presence, this is what I mean." And I went up on stage and I sang Pearl Jam's Jeremy. And I had everybody in that room losing their mind and interacting. And I was like, huh, this kind of feels interesting.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, some friends of mine, we started going to do karaoke at a local place here in or outside of Las Vegas. Um, and we started going every week, and I would go up and sing Tenacious D songs or the theme from The Love Boat, and I started enjoying it. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to start, like I want to take what I was doing with my solo stuff, my instrumental stuff, and I want to turn it to where there's vocals to it. And I think I want to have someone else play guitar and only me sing. Um, and so I started working on that, and then someone had gifted me lessons for Melissa Cross, where I learned about
Nice.
like shout out to Melissa Cross. Like she is a true beast and legend in the vocal academy. um, and for those who don't know, like she's known for how to correctly teach people to scream and do vocal fry and things like that without hurting their voice and doing it naturally.
Yeah,
And
she's worked with a lot of like Randy from Lamb of God and
yep,
um
uh, Corey Taylor, David Draymond, Maria Brink from In This Moment, like all across the board. And she got into like, and hearing her story, like how she got into it was kind of interesting, where she didn't do any of that. Like she was a vocal coach and a vocal instructor, and she had a producer friend that's like, hey, I've got this kid that he is coughing up blood every time he comes to do vocal takes. Can you come and help?
Whoa.
Yeah, like it was literally like he's having problems.
Yeah.
And
Jeez.
she was like, I'll come and check it out, but I really don't know. And then she went and saw the kid in the studio, saw him doing this stuff, and sure enough, he's coughing up blood and shit. And she's like, I don't know how to help you, but I'm going to find out. And she took it upon herself to ultimately end up learning the science behind the techniques that goes into death metal, that goes into screaming and all of that stuff. Um, and she basically became the pioneer in it. Someone gifted me her speak, sing, scream course, and I was like, I just want to get to the screaming part. I was like, no, I'll be the good guy, and I'll start at the beginning. And the speaking one was like, no, we're going to teach you techniques and
Yeah.
things that you're going to do every day, and we're going to change your mindset of how singing works, and we're going to change how your breathing works, and how you recognize these sensations and these feelings, and how they all work together to where it becomes second nature. So I started doing that, and like literally, I mean, literally within a month of me taking these less, actually within a week or two, I was going to karaoke. I'm belting out like music of the night. I'm belting out Chris Isaac. I'm holding notes for 15 seconds and I'm doing this stuff and people are like, "Holy crap." I'm like, "I think I could do this." Um, so yeah, so I'm getting into it. Played my very first show ever singing and frontman, and I will say there's definitely a lot of work to do. It
Yeah.
definitely took me out of my comfort zone, but I'm so excited for it. Like it's a completely different challenge that I wasn't prepared for, but I'm so excited for.
That's great. So, what? How is it different? Like managing other people's careers versus your own music.
Um, I would say it's a little bit different in that managing my own stuff, I kind of know the skill sets and the things, but I think the thing that I lack with mine and is what I bring to other people, which is accountability. Um, so for me, like there's no one holding me accountable to my goals and these things, and I can keep pushing them off and whatever. But I know what I need to do, and I'll start making out plans and I'll start doing these things, and stuff gets done. But I don't necessarily have that accountability partner to be like with me every week going, all right, where are you at with this? Where are we at? Okay, why are you pushing this out? And then I
Anytime
think,
you need me, just call me up, and I'm happy to. You don't even have to tell me what the issue is. I'll just be like, "Hey, you're fucking up. Get it together." So
oh, I know, I know.
I'll leave
Uh,
it as a voicemail, and you can play it anytime you need that. Yeah, I
oh
got
yeah.
you, bro.
But so I think helping with others, with it is it's very different. Is I'm that accountability person. Like I'm not there to set their vision. I'm not there to change their vision. I'm there to help them realize it. And then
Yeah,
I'm there to help them get to, creating these goals, reviewing them. I'm a big metrics guy. Like I'm going to websites and I'm getting details. I'm going to sound charts and going, all right, where are we at with followers and streams and all of this stuff, and looking at trends and what's happened the last 6 to 8 weeks, um and uh and I get to be like literally it's, hey, I create these templates and these things for you. Where are you at with this? Okay, cool. What do you need? What roadblocks do you have? And help them work through it. And again, like even like the artists that I'm working with right now, I don't think any of them are in the exact genre of music that I work in. So like they're almost even completely different. So some I'm learning a little bit more about. Like I had no idea what shoegaze was. Like
oh yeah,
yeah, no idea. I'm working with a band from Cincinnati, and they're a big doom metal band. Um, and I'm learning about all these different techniques and producers and artists and stuff like that. But but it's the same thing of like I'm developing them in figure, we've got these three, these 3 months and where they're at with these things, and meet with them on a regular basis to go, okay, where are we at with this? What do you need? Do you need contacts for this? Do you need help figuring out someone to do PR for that? So I'm there to, one, help hold them accountable to the goals that they've set, making sure they're staying true to their vision and helping remove any roadblocks that they're having getting to that.
Nice.
Um, yeah, that's kind of the big difference there. And I don't like in my own stuff, like there's always the potential for like interpersonal drama or these setbacks and things like that. With this, I don't have that. It's all right, I think I need to have a difficult discussion with this band member. Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So
What's going on?
you're a little bit removed from the emotional side of things, where you're just more of
Objective third party.
exactly, a neutral third party and an objective voice that's in there to,
Yeah.
to give that guidance and, like you talked about earlier, stay focused on that North Star.
Mhm.
If you had to go back and give your younger self advice, so whether it's right before a tour, right before like your first corporate gig, what would you say?
I've thought about this, and I don't know that it'll necessarily be helpful. But if I was to ever go back, like if I could go back to like when I was in high school, I would tell myself to buy stock in Amazon and Apple. Like straight up. Like I would do these
Fact.
things. But yeah. Um, but I would say like as like a musician and someone getting into the professional world and stuff like that, I always they've put a name to it in the last 5 to 10 years, but I always had imposter syndrome. So like I myself, I did not go to college. I do not have a degree. Um, when I was in high school, I always felt like I'm kind of good enough. Like I'm smart, and I know I'm going to graduate with good grades. Like I wasn't the most popular kid, and but there was always something where I felt inferior to what I really was, and I suffered from imposter syndrome. Um, and I would probably go back and go, no, like don't accept anything less. Like don't think that you're not good enough.
Nice.
Um, because what you more than likely the people that you're idolizing or the things that you think are completely unattainable are absolutely attainable. Like when I was a teenager, if someone had told me I was going to be traveling the world managing people from 6 different countries and teams from 11 different countries, and that I would be completely changing policies and procedures and making a difference in, you know, Fortune 500 companies, I would have said you were full of shit.
Yeah.
No way. But I did. And for me, I felt like it took a lot longer than it should have because of myself. Like I was holding myself back because I didn't think I was good enough.
Well, that's
And
the
one of
thing
the,
too, is that they say that imposter syndrome is most prevalent in high performing individuals, right? So the the people that are like, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the shit, right? Those are usually
yep.
the ones that aren't. And the ones that are really great are the ones that,
Yeah.
they have that imposter syndrome. I think with me, my biggest fear is that what happens if they figure out I'm not good enough to have imposter syndrome, right?
Or maybe I should have imposter syndrome.
Right.
Yep.
Um, well, cool. I think so. Quick, like lightning round of some questions just to finish us off here.
Okay.
Um, like right off the top of your head, like what's one rule you live by?
Um, always take ownership of my actions and never make excuses.
Love that. What's one risk that paid off for you?
Um, ooh. Ah, okay. Um, so speaking of Amazon and all of that,
Yeah,
I was always scared to fly. This is going to be a little bit longer than a short round.
that's fine.
Um, I was always scared to fly, and I always, like, anytime there was an opportunity, but it required me to fly it, I was like, nope. One time I was a trainer, um, and there was an opportunity to take a short-term assignment to Costa Rica and help build their training team. This was back in 2009, like the beginning of 2009. I applied for it, but I applied for it against three or four other sites, probably a total pool of like 20 trainers. I applied for it and I got it. And
Nice.
when I got the feedback from, like, hey, just FYI, pack your bags, get your passport, you're going to Costa Rica. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to Costa Rica. And as soon as I hung up the phone, I was like, shit, I'm going to Costa Rica.
That's
But the thing was, is I did that. I spent 3 months lonely as hell, but seeing some of the coolest things, experiencing so many cultures, and that completely flipped my mindset as it related to how much I was holding myself back and how much I could do. And that opened me up to, you know what? I'm willing to travel by plane to our headquarters. I'm willing to, you know, uh, go and do these things. And at the end of it, like, there was one year I was in four different continents.
wow.
And I, like, one trip I was literally going to Ireland, to um to Italy, to Morocco, to Germany, then to South Africa. And then, like, 2 or 3 months later, I was going to India and Japan. and,
Wow.
and like, you want to experience complete culture shock, but go to India. It is amazing. Like, I was the one place I was like, got no desire to go there. I got asked to be the heavy for a work trip to make sure nothing, like, I'm a big intimidating guy, and there was a couple of women that were going and they didn't want to be harassed. So I went, and it was one of the most enriching experiences I ever had. So definitely that was the one thing, like, I can equate to me going to Costa Rica and applying for that job that I thought I had no chance of getting. I applied for it and I got it, and my life completely flipped on its head after that point.
Wow. What what's one thing you're most excited about for 2025?
Uh, all
Now
right.
that we're halfway, we're in June already.
Yeah, we're more than halfway there. So this isn't formally announced, but we're going to be here in the next week or two. But so part of the reasons why I started my management company was because I was tired of predatory practices against artists and musicians, and I wanted to appropriately, with honesty and integrity, help develop and grow these people into this, and ultimately eventually make a change in the music industry. After a few discussions with some friends and even a mentor, I have decided to create a independent music organization called the Independent Musicians Guild. And it's very much in the early stages, but basically it's a membership organization, so there'll be dues, but creating different experiences and opportunities for independent musicians around the world, um, to help empower multiple people. So, like, I don't want to manage a million bands, but I do want to make a difference in a million bands.
Nice.
Uh,
Yeah.
and create this organization where it's community, but it's also education, and also providing additional opportunities. So, like, at the start, a lot of it's going to be like blogs, podcasts, meetings, things like that. And then once we start getting into the paid tiers, we're going to be creating more training, more in-depth available training resources, and then working to get discounts, get access to members only events, where we have, like, some famous keynote speakers to come in and talk about different aspects within the music industry. And then ultimately have, like, a higher tier for people who are really committed and are looking for things like healthcare, looking for, legal insurance, financial planning, um, and also like a higher tier access to larger opportunities within, like, say, PR, booking agencies, stuff like that. Getting directories to music producers and PR agencies and all the different things that they want to do to be able to artist management and development, things to help them elevate and be successful independently.
Nice. Um, where can people, if anybody wants to like check out what you're doing or reach out to you or anything like that, where are some places that they can find you?
I'm on the usual Facebook, Instagram. I'm on there quite a bit, but I think it's istibus.tomass is my main handle on Instagram. But the easiest way to get in touch with me is info@darkstreammusicmanagement.com. That's the email to my artist development and management company. And yeah, that's probably the best way to get in touch with me.
Love that. Anything else you wanted to add or touch on?
No. I'm looking forward to seeing all the other things that come with the Yes, You Can Quit Your Job. And I'm
Yes,
really,
yes, quit your day job.
yeah, quit your day job. And no,
Easter bus.
honestly, yeah, Easter bus. Um, but no, just looking forward to, changing the mindsets of artists and musicians and realize that they actually can be successful at this, and the term starving goes away. Like,
Yeah.
I hate the term starving artist, but it's a true thing, but I want to see where that's not the case. So maybe that's the North Star vision, is the term starving artist is never used ever again.
I love that. Well, Thomas, thanks for joining us today, man. It was great chatting with you.
Absolutely. Likewise.
All righty. That's our show. Huge thanks to Thomas Crawford for showing up and keeping it honest. If something from today's episode hit you, share it with a friend or tag me. You can find me on all social media at Seven Dunbar. You can find full episodes, show notes, and more at YQYDJ.com. And remember, the only thing more painful than failing is not trying.